So, you want to know the main causes of World War II, right? I know I'm young, and trust me, I am young, but I've read countless books, and not just comic books or anything. I've read books that professors have studied with, read, and I've studied World War II for like the last 5 years of my life. It's just so interesting. And I may want to grow up and be a professor teaching about World War II. And sorry about any background noises. It's just I have some friends and family over that are just downstairs. And the main cause of World War II was probably the Treaty of Versailles. That was probably the main cause. Because it showed, like, the whole treaty, if you look at it, it shows you how bad the Germans are going to have to suffer because of the Treaty of Versailles. And honestly, I don't think that anyone would ever inflict the kind of pain that the treaty kind of inflicted on the Germans, because that made the Germans probably so mad on how, and it shows you why you can kind of understand why the Germans kind of got mad and started to militarize and do all this stuff. But they went into depression, sadly, because of the Treaty of Versailles. And this was a very sad depression, like worse than the Great Depression here in the U.S. And it got worse, I think, like around in the early mid 1930s. It started to get really, really bad because there was a great worldwide European depression, and that just inflicted the most amount of pain the Germans could ever have. Like, the rationing was like, it was horrible. It was horrible. I wish I could show pictures, but sadly I don't know how to edit those in. So, but I'll try to go, if you go to my post, I'll try to post some pictures. But I'm starting this new series. So, and the Treaty of Versailles, it kind of just inflicted that amount of pain, and then mixed with that great European depression and this worldwide depression. And there's nothing that the Germans could really do at that time to help or anything. But slowly they kind of the worldwide depression slowly comes to a stop, but the German depression keeps going. And then as the Germans are kind of figuring everything out, two like social parties emerge. And one of them is a fascist party, and then the other comes into play, and they have this spy person working, and his name is Adolf Hitler. And he goes into this fascist party to spy on them, but then he realizes he really does agree with them. And so he kind of climbs in the ranks a bit. And then he tries to have this, like, later on, after he's kind of gained more power of that social group, by like mid 1930s or early, mid or early 1930s, he tries to have an uprising and overthrow the government. He gets thrown in jail, and he gets all mad in jail, and then so he decides to write a book actually explaining his feelings, and the book is called Mein Kampf. And I think there is an English version out there if you want to read it, and it translates to My Struggle in English. And it just shows how much, like, why he's doing this. It shows why he's doing this. And, well, it kind of does just show everything about why he actually is doing this. And it's a good definition, and it riles up the German people. Because in the book it shows why he blames Jews, because the Jews are kind of teaming up, but not on the Germans. They're just teaming up so that they can survive. And I have no blame for the Jewish at all. The Jewish were just doing what they needed to do to survive. And and most businesses were owned by Jewish people. And they started teaming up, and like when they would go to the synagogues, or like it's like a church to Christian people. And they would go up to these synagogues and they would like communicate, kind of. And like if one wasn't doing so well, like the other one will give them some money, and or like anything. And by this point, by the way, guys, just as a little side note, German money is useless. Like, people would have to show up in wheelbarrows to buy just one loaf of bread. And so at that point in time, like, this money was getting so useless, people were using it as like wallpapers or bricks to build stuff and play with their children. And it was so useless. And the economy was so bad. And then everyone sees this great hero, Adolf Hitler, writing his struggles and showing why he needs to team up on these Jewish people and all these other people who are not Aryan, which is the blonde hair, blue eyes, athletic. And honestly, he wasn't even Aryan himself. Black hair, brown eyes, and not very athletic. He didn't even pass the physical test for his own country, Austria-Hungary. And that kind of showed, and so he signed up for the German army in World War I. And that kind of just shows you all how non-Aryan he was, and he was declaring these Aryans to be the best. And that kind of just also shows you on how he kind of rose to power, because it shows how people can be perfect in life, not make mistakes sometimes. And that would be the true Aryan German. True Germans. And honestly, it wasn't even him. He wasn't even trying. He didn't think that this book was going to be that big. He hoped it would, but it wasn't. And like this video, I hope it gets big, but I know it probably won't. And this kind of just shows you how and then once he gets out of prison, he climbs the ranks again in the fascist party. And then he makes a name for himself in the whole fascist party. National Socialism, a lot of other words that I'm not going to bore you with saying. A lot of other explanations that I'm not going to bore you with saying. And the Nazis. Their symbol is the swastika, of course. On the flags, the red, black, white. Usually that's what it was. And, of course, everyone riles up behind him because his speech is in a rhythm. And so that also really riles people up, usually, when he's giving speeches. And he'll also shout and, like, give so much emotion. And so people start to, like, rally up behind him. And it's 1938, and then, 1938, I think. Sorry, it's hard to remember this stuff. Not all of it. And so it's Christianov, Night of Broken Glass. People break into Jewish businesses. They take whatever they want from it, and they smash the glass. And that's why it translates Night of Broken Glass from German to English. And it puts Jewish businesses in such bad shape. And also, there's this new thing called the Gestapo. I think that's how you pronounce it. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And the Gestapo, they don't care who you are, but as long as you're Jewish, you're getting taken. Either that or beat up or shot. A story of one survivor of the Holocaust said that in the Christianov, and a lot of this might be weird translations because they were German. I had to translate it through Google Translate. So I'm not sure if any of this is like actual translation, but it's somewhere on YouTube. Just put in like the Holocaust survivor, and it shows how he kind of like, when he survived, he saw a Hitler Youth boy shout out to the Gestapo, look, the Jude, which is German for Jewish, or Jew, is running. The Jew is running. The Jude is running. And the Gestapo man tells him to freeze or stop. He doesn't stop. He doesn't freeze. And so, hang on 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I'm pretty sure I paused it, but and this Krishnov, and he shows the Jew, sorry, I'm trying to backtrack where I was. And anyways, the kid was shouting, the Jude is running, the Jude is running, right? And so the Gestapo man tells him to stop, and the Jewish guy doesn't stop. He keeps running. So the Gestapo guy pulls out his gun and shoots 3 shots. Bang, bang, bang. And minutes later, the guy is twisted. The first bullet rips into his lower ribs, and where his kidneys kind of are, I think. And his body gets twisted, and then the next shot goes into the head. And he's just laying there motionless. And a bunch of people dragged him over to the fire and burned him. And they did that, and they burned people alive there, I think, but only a small amount. Most of them were just taken to concentration camps. Like Daku, I don't know how you pronounce that really. But a bunch of these camps, just horrible camps. And this is why I wanted to dive in deep on the Krishnov and I Broken Glass, because I just want to show you how horrible it is. And how, even when I'm saying it, it probably doesn't sound as bad as when you see it. I mean, they were packed so tightly into some train cars on the way there that half of them didn't make it out alive of the train cars. They suffocated to death. And also, there was probably human feces all over the ground. It's nasty in those train cars. People were having, urinate in their own pants because they couldn't move enough. And it was horrible. And the Germans didn't care. The German soldiers, they didn't care. But this was also, some of this was later in the war. While the war started, or later 1939 and 1940. Most of that happened in there. But these concentration camps were horrible. And these soldiers, they started to not, they couldn't do firing squads anymore. Because it was just too much. It was just too much of the ammo being wasted at that point. So, and this is all later in the war, by the way. This is not the causes. But I want to dive in deep to this really quick and just show you how bad it was, because it was horrible. And this guy named Heinrich Himmler, Hitler's right-hand man, he developed a gas chamber, which they would have the Jewish people stripped down, stripped naked, take out any of their teeth, fillings, anything that's expensive, put it off to the side. Lead them into these gas chambers. Let the gas kill them. It's horrible. Horrible. And so when these camps were liberated, I'm going to speed this up real quick. When these camps were liberated by U.S. Army, Russian Army, British Army, they started executing the SS guards. SS is Hitler's main group security has most of the time, and SS officers. That's his main security, actually, the SS officers. And back to the causes. Also, Hitler himself, he just wanted to be to get in power first, so he kind of made these decisions on his military to make sure people were following, and to make sure to see what he was trying to do. And the German people rallied up behind him when they realized that they were getting out of this economic blowout. And it just kind of shows you how he got people rallied up behind him. And it was insane how he got that many people up that fast. This shows you how he kind of used these things, these smaller things too, like, the book, and he turns them into big things. Like, his book became famous, and everything. And people were, like, so rallied up behind him and stuff that it became insane. And everyone just became a Nazi fascist, and they all voted for that party, and then he becomes in control by mid-1930s, 1920s, stuff like that. And so now comes to 1939. And this was a horrible year for other nations other than Germany, especially Poland. Because Poland, they have outdated military. They're still riding in on horses. Like, there's pictures of these lone horses standing in the middle of the battlefield. I'm sure you can find one somewhere, because I've seen pictures in books, stuff like that. And, sorry about that. And I know I was about to say concentration camps. These horses, they're so outdated, and he's using blitzkrieg, which it'll come in to these planes, the Luftwaffe will come in with these Stuka dive bombers, and they'll come in and just bomb, like, the crap out of everything. And then, by surprise by the bombers, here comes in the military. Tanks, infantry, and a whole lot more bombing takes place right before they march in. With these huge German bombers. And these Stuka dive bombers are so fast to go to the ground and bomb that the Polish had no time to react. So they're taken within, like, a few weeks, I think. And next up would be... Next up would be, like, the infantry goes in, they start, like, just killing every single Polish soldier if they're... And then they round up the Jewish, of course, send them to concentration camps, or just kill them on the spot. And then they have Poland, and Russia declares war. But they're going back to the kind of plan in World War I. They'll take France fast, and then have time to fight Russia on the Eastern Front. But, of course, they do take France fast, and they want to take Britain, too. But Britain's not so easily to fall. And, of course, you have the Battle of Britain Day. And, of course, I'm just giving you a little bit of knowledge. Like, this is just scraping the top. The Battle of Britain was, like, way later in the war. Wasn't the start. But France fell immediately. And, of course, Dunkirk. British troops trying to get out with French troops. And here come the Stuka dive bombers. And these huge German bombers. Escorted by these Messerschmitt 109s, BF 109s. And so the bombers are untouchable to any plane. Because of these Messerschmitt 109s. Fastest, most agile plane known to man. And it can even beat a Zero, a Japanese Zero. I'm pretty sure. And they had very experienced and trained pilots, like, escorting the German bombers. And they just come in and it's a massacre at Dunkirk. Absolute massacre. And I only think that one German or a couple of German planes were lost. And thousands, maybe 1 million at most, at absolute most, were lost, like at Dunkirk, and a little bit at the battle before it. Maybe 1 million troops out of all of France are dead because of these German bombers and these Stuka dive bombers and blitzkrieg. Because it's just insane of how fast the Germans infiltrated with these fast tanks, fast infantry, these fast bombers, and these Messerschmitt 109s. And that's all I'm going to give you for now. in the war, because I'm going to explain the whole war in a later video. Hopefully you guys can check that out. It'll drop either today or in sometime in the week. I hope I can get it out. But I'll see on my time, because my schedule is going to be packed this week. But I'll try my best to. And just remember to stay curious. That's all I have to say. Bye.